Hi, this is Megan Jacks, Creative Memories Independent Advisor, and I'm here today with a video to show you how to make this layout. I made it using the new Jumbo Simple Frame Custom Cutting System template from Creative Memories. This was a promotion item, so it's not currently available, but I know many of you did go ahead and get that as part of the promotion. So I want to show you how you can use it along with the knockout style punches, which would be something like animal tracks that I use for this example. The one I'm going to make in the video, I am going to be using footprints as my the Border Maker cartridge. So before we get started, I do want to talk about, I mentioned that I use the knockout style Border Maker cartridge, and that is definitely going to be the style you want to use, and there's a reason why. So the knockout style punches, we'll take a closer look here at animal tracks, only punches out from the middle of the paper. There's no edging on either side. It stays attached to the paper and it doesn't impact the outside edge of your design here. Whereas if we were to look at something like picket fence, you can see it knocks out a middle here, but it's also going to make this a decorative edge, which with this simple frame, we don't want that. We want to keep that nice curvature of the design. It's also going to be a shape that is difficult to really get nice and clean with our Border Maker cartridges with those punches. So these punches, the knockout style, like I said, they just remove this center portion. They don't affect the outside or the inside edge of your paper. Are going to be great choices for this. So I used Animal Tracks here. Animal Tracks is currently available. The one I want to point out though, other ones that might work well is if you have Arrow. Arrow is great, just like Animal Tracks, just like Footprints. It is completely contained within the Border Maker itself. So the design doesn't overlap into the next one. An example of one that might be a little bit more challenging to use for this, even though it's considered a knockout style punch, is going to be the double chevron. And you'll see right here, the reason why is that chevron overlaps outside of the Border Maker cartridge. When you are doing consecutive in a row, this side here lines up with the other side of the punch. But for this example, the way we space things, we don't get them nice and tight together, so you wouldn't have that nice cohesion between each punch. These half chevrons would be independent of each other and just give a little bit more of an awkward look. So definitely ones that are self-contained like Arrow. Star is self-contained. There's no half stars in here. But for my example that I'm going to show you today, I will actually be using the Footprints, which was recently part available as the same promotion as the Simple Frame. And I am going to be showing you using the Seaside collection. So I'm making a separate layout. It's going to be a little bit different than this one, not a whole lot. And I'll talk about the differences between the two as I'm making them. So I've got a piece of designer paper. I will be punching on designer paper. So I've got this, it's kind of a, I don't know, maybe a stucco texture to the print from the Seaside collection. This might be from, I think, the tonal pack from the Seaside collection. So I'm going to go ahead and line everything up here on my cutting mat, my 13 by 13 cutting mat. I'm going to be using the green blade with my decorative paper, and I will go ahead and line everything up. Now, as you can probably imagine, I did take my jumbo frame here and I found my center points at the top on the side. So this curved edge, there is a manufacturing dot here. It kind of lines up with these rubber grips. I went ahead and used a Sharpie and just drew lines on either side of that on all four sides here. For other projects, I went ahead and also did it up here in the 45-degree corners there. So I have those marked. Today, we're only going to be worried about the ones that line up really with that 6-inch mark on all four sides of our trimming guide or our cutting mat. So I've lined up my paper. I'm lining up my jumbo mat as best as I can. It doesn't have to be exact. One of the reasons that if I make it a little bit more exact is I'll have this background piece that I cut out. I can use it for another project. So that's one of the reasons I like to try to center things as much as I can. So now I'm going to grab my green blade. Now for this example, you can use either the blue or the green, should work fine. Red, I didn't test as much, but green or blue works fine. The spacing for getting those punches will be done. It was great. When I use the green, I'm going to be creating a mat, a background mat with a navy blue cardstock that's going to stick out around it. So in my example before that I showed you that I made with the Happy Camper collection, I actually cut it with the blue blade. So I wasn't able to make an exterior kind of like a shadow mat behind it. I went ahead and did back it with some brown cardstock, but I couldn't make it stick out beyond it. So what I decided for this sample is I'm going to cut the this top mat with the green blade. I'll cut a back mat with the blue blade, which will allow that background color to stand out on the side and give it kind of that nice framed effect. So I've got my green blade and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trim my paper here. I will tell you that I would highly recommend practicing with this new frame with some practice cardstock. Get a feel for how it cuts, how it moves. You don't want to be cutting your favorite paper the first time with a new template like this. It does have, you know, the curvature is a little bit different than some of our current ones that we have, especially if you're used to something like the jumbo circle. There's a nice, smooth, even cut all the way around. So you want to go careful, you want to go slow, and go ahead and practice. And in all honesty, practice this technique on some spare cardstock. Find out which punches you like. So you can just see I'm just kind of going slow around it. Before I move my template, I'm going to go ahead and make sure I've got a nice release all the way around with my paper. I can see here in this corner, I didn't quite get a good cut. So I'm going to come back and get that corner again. And now I've got a full release on that paper. So now that I've got everything centered here, I can either use my mat or my template to help me mark my 6-inch lines, or I can just pull my template away and I can just use my mat to help me mark these 6-inch marks. And I want to mark the 6-inch marks because they're going to help me with my placing. So I'm just going to go ahead and do light lines with a pencil at 6 inches on all 4 sides. I just need to mark that center. So you guys can't see them very easily in the video, but they are there. I can see them. One thing you might want to be doing here is working from the back side. It just depends. This is the front side that's going to be up. So technically, I think you probably would want to work from the back side because we're going to be punching from the back. But I think I should probably be okay. So I've got my footprints already in my punch or my Border Maker cartridge holder. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and slide it in, and I'm going to try to center this as best I can at that 6-inch mark that I made. So when I slide it in there, I'm going to slide it in, and I'm just going to kind of look. Each punch is a little bit different on whether or not how it lines up. With these knockout style punches, it's really difficult to see the lines unless I were to draw it clear out here and then line it up that way. But it doesn't have to be exact. I just want it to be roughly in the center. And that's my first punch. Now I can tell you with footprints, it's got a lot of little pieces there. So I definitely have to turn it over and shake it out every single time. So now, the trick with this, or the technique that I want you to follow, is punch the center one first. Then you're going to punch 2 up the side towards the corner. And you're just going to kind of wing it a little bit. So I can see here, if you guys, I probably can't really tell in the video, but I can see my other punch, the previous punch, and I'm going to make sure I slide up past it, not very far. I maybe need to go 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, not very far. And I'm going to punch again and shake it out. And I'm going to do the same thing. I come down, I can see the toes of my previous punch in the heel of the current one. So I'm going to move it up just a little bit more and punch again. So there you can see I've got 3 punches. I did 1, 2, 3, right up the top half of that section of the square. So now I'm going to repeat the same thing, but I'm going to go downwards. So I've got my half, the first punch I made, and I'm going to come in here. I'm going to just pull it down towards me and make a punch. And then do one more time. By nature of how these knockout punches are, especially with something like footprints, which has a little bit of waver to the pattern itself because of the nature of footprints, you can just see it just does a nice job in there. It's not, if it's not, each step is not even, it's okay. So now I'm going to rotate and I'm going to do the same process over again. So I'm going to start in the middle. Always start with your middle punch. And I'm going to do either, you can do the two above, and then go with the two below, or you could do the two below first. You just want to make sure you do the center first. That's what sets everything kind of in motion. And it's also what is going to make sure that you have your center ones will all be even. It's going to help you with that nice even distribution. And just keep going all the way around. One more side to do. Once again, my last one, make sure you always start in the middle. Repeat that because that is the trick to this particular method, because everything else seems to work out pretty good as long as you start in the middle. One last one here. Okay, so you can see I now have my footprints all the way around. So like I said, I'm using a navy piece of paper or navy piece of cardstock. So I cut my top mat here with the green blade. I cut my bottom mat with the blue blade, which made it just a little bit bigger. So you can see I've got that nice edging all the way around. And then I'm going to be, I think, putting this on this kind of red textured background here. The photos I have that I'm using are from a beach trip, and I don't have them all cut and ready to go because I have to still figure out which ones I'm going to use. But you can see there, I've got some nice contrast with those footprints all the way around because of that navy cardstock. And I'll easily be able to put some 4x4 photos on here. Though actually, I think with this size, because I use the green, I'm probably going to need to trim these down to 3 1/4 or 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. So you can see their 4x4s are just a smidge too big because I used the green blade. If I had used the blue blade on this top mat, my footprints would be a little bit wider and I'd be able to get the 4x4s on there. That's how it worked out when I did this particular layout. So this top layout here with the paw prints, or excuse me, the animal tracks and 4x4 photos was done with the green blade, or excuse me, the blue blade. The blue blade made this, but all I had was just one mat. Then, if you want to be able to do a double mat where you have the background that comes out from the back, you would need to cut your inside, your top mat with the green blade, and then you would use the blue blade on that backing cardstock. So it's a fun layout to try. It's a great technique to be able to use. Like I said, try those knockout style border maker cartridges with it. It's going to let the edges of the simple frame stay nice and smooth and rounded, and you don't lose that overall shape, but you do get some added detail in there. Lots of fun to be able to do. So I hope you have a chance to give it a try. Be sure to check out my group, Scrapbooking with Megan. You can share your layouts in there. I would love to see them. If you have questions, feel free to send me a message via Facebook, or you can find my contact information, I believe, on my website. It's Megan with 2 Gs, Jax.com. Thanks for watching.